One of the things that I adore about getting older and being in my 40s is that time.
Dynasty star Linda Evans is 82 years old, and her lifestyle is unbelievable. She went from making $100,000 every episode to doing things like cutting her own wood in a remote area. The once wealthy TV actress uprooted her life, left Hollywood for a clandestine Washington compound, and vanished without a trace. The most bizarre aspect, though, is yet to come. She was arrested when she was 74 years old, made an astonishing return when she was 79 years old, and you won't believe what she did with a live eel on TV that shattered the internet until you hear it. In Hartford, Connecticut, on November 18, 1942, Linda Evanstad came into this world. Her name is Linda Evans. She took great pride in her Norwegian ancestry. She inherited the surname Evanstad from her paternal great-grandmother, who resided on a little farm in Ness Haymark, until her 1884 immigration to the United States. Born to Arlene and Alba Evans, she was the second of 3 children. Her household was a constant source of inspiration and performance, as both of her parents were professional dancers. Despite growing up in the entertainment industry, Linda was a very reserved kid who shied away from the spotlight. Her family uprooted from Hartford and settled in North Hollywood, California, when she was just 6 months old. Despite her lack of interest in the entertainment sector, this transformation thrust her smack dab in the center of it. She went to Hollywood High School, where Stephanie Powers and Carol Wells were among her classmates. While her parents were natural performers, Linda always wanted to blend in and let her parents' passion shine through. Because of her severe shyness, she had a hard time interacting with others. It was at the age of 14 that her parents realized she needed assistance in conquering her aversion to being the center of attention. She was persuaded to enroll in acting courses, not because they wanted her to pursue a Hollywood career, but because they believed it would boost her confidence. Acting gave her something she hadn't anticipated, but she was still nervous about performing in front of an audience. Because of this, she was able to speak her mind without fear of judgment. There was a liberating sensation in her. By assuming new personas, she was able to express feelings that she had previously repressed. Everything altered because of that decision. She and her companion went to an audition for a TV commercial when she was 15 years old. Linda was there to reassure her anxious buddy. Despite her reluctance, she ended up trying out. She caught the eye of the casting director, who then inquired if she would be interested in reading for the role. Surprisingly, she landed the part despite never having auditioned for anything before. Because of that unforeseen event, she was exposed to acting in a manner she had never anticipated. Soon after appearing in the ad, she began to model and get tiny TV appearances, which opened doors to even more chances. The 1960s hit sitcom Bachelor Father gave her her first speaking role. She initially crossed paths with John Forsythe on set. Little did they realize that years later their paths would recross, altering the course of their respective careers. She was also a guest star on another popular sitcom at the time, The Adventures of Azie and Harriet. Linda gained confidence in front of the camera and experience in an industry she had never intended to be a part of through these early little parts. The Big Valley was a Western series that ran on ABC from 1965 to 1969 and featured 23-year-old Linda Evans as Audra Barkley. That was the turning point in her professional life. The show chronicled the struggles of the affluent Barkley family as they attempted to hold on to their ranch in the San Joaquin Valley in California. In all 11 episodes, Evans co-starred with Lee Majors and Barbara Stanwyck, 2 Hollywood legends. Being the youngest of her family's siblings didn't diminish Audra Barkley's strength of character, compassion, or courage to fight for what she thought was right. Audra was a trailblazer during a time when strong, independent women were becoming increasingly common on television. Thanks to her charisma and nuanced performance, Evans became one of the show's most adored characters. She contemplated quitting the part because of disapproval from her boyfriend and the producer's refusal to let her out of the contract, but she ultimately decided to accept it. Everything altered because of that decision. A 1966 Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Film Sound Editing was one of the show's many accolades for its accomplishment. More than merely a hit program, it was the springboard to Evans's meteoric rise to fame. Evans counts her time spent working with Barbara Stanwyck among her career-defining events. Stanwyck was renowned for her severe professionalism and no-nonsense demeanor. She mentored Evans and showed her how to be the center of attention on television. Evans had a memorable moment where he questioned the meaning of presence in a scenario. In the midst of filming, Stanwyck threw her onto the scene rather than explain. The lesson resonated with Evans, and she said it was the turning point that gave her the self-assurance she needed to pursue acting. They got close beyond the realm of performing. After Stanwyck's show ran, he consoled Evans after her mother died, saying, "I'll be your mom now." As a result, their friendship became even stronger. For Evans, Stanwyck was more than simply a mentor. He was an inspiration. Evans carried the principles of self-control and perseverance that her mother instilled in her throughout her professional life. Linda Evans was an established TV star as 1969 came to a close for the Big Valley. In the mid-1970s, she began to break away from the innocent persona she had cultivated on television by taking on daring and surprising parts. She co-starred with Richard Burton and Lee Marvin in 1974's The Klansman. The film depicted a racially divided Southern community that was on the verge of bloodshed, adapted on the novel by William Bradford Huey. Played by Evans was Nancy Pottet, a young lady whose attack set off escalating tensions between the town's white officials and the town's black inhabitants. Critics believed the film failed to adequately address the weighty societal concerns it set out to address. Not everyone found it thought-provoking. Some thought it was exploitative. At spite of the criticism, The Klansman is important because it shows racial tensions at a turbulent time in a direct and honest way. Additionally, it was one of O.J.'s historical interest by including Simpson's initial performing parts. Mitchell, a criminal thriller starring Joe Don Baker, was released in 1975 and featured Evans in an entirely different role. Greta, an aristocratic escort entangled in a perilous web of corruption, was the character she played. The film followed Baker as he played the role of a tough investigator who brought his own brand of justice to bear on powerful crooks. An integral part of the plot, Greta was more than simply a romantic interest. She was caught up in the film's bigger problems. Mitchell did not have a good reception when he visited there. Critics panned it, and the New York Times characterized it as shallow, television-centric fare. In the 1990s, nevertheless, it had an unexpected second life thanks to an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. It became beloved by many for its inflated action scenes and tough guy cliches. Evans's performance demonstrated her courage to try new things, even in critically panned films. She was able to explore darker, more complicated characters in these parts, which were a marked change from her time as Audra Barkley on The Big Valley. However, the challenges of making the leap from TV to cinema were evident, but she persisted, and in the end, she accomplished one of her career highlights. Along with Steve McQueen, Evans played in Tom Horn in 1980. Legendary scout-turned-vigilante Tom Horn, who became embroiled in a bloody struggle over cattle rustling, was the real-life hero of the film. McQueen brought Horn to life as a guy grappling with the demons of his violent background and the challenges of adapting to a rapidly evolving environment. One of the only individuals who showed Horn compassion and understanding was Gwendoline Kimmel, a teacher that Evans portrayed. Even though the narrative was mostly about treachery and anarchy, her persona made it feel more human. Many obstacles were encountered during the making of Tom Horn. Mesothelioma is a very aggressive malignancy, and McQueen's health was deteriorating even before this. His performance was one of the most moving of his career, made all the more so by the subtle intensity that his sickness brought to it. Some critics lauded McQueen for his depth and realism, while others believed the film's pace was inconsistent, leading to mixed reviews. Tom Horn was first underappreciated, but it eventually became a fan favorite, particularly among Western aficionados. The film was a triumph for Evans, proving she could act with the likes of a Hollywood legend. It was a turning point in her career as well. She kept appearing in films, but her breakthrough part was still to come. The job of Crystal Carrington on Dynasty came to 39-year-old Linda Evans from Hollywood. Although it was thought that the character was too mature for a leading lady, producer Aaron Spelling defied industry norms by casting Evans, who possessed both traditional glamour and tenderness. She portrayed the role of Crystal, the secretary-turned-wife of oil mogul Blake Carrington, in the January 12, 1981, premiere of Dynasty. From an initial $15,000 per episode, her income skyrocketed to $100,000 by 1989, solidifying her position as television's highest-paid actress. Evans saw this job as an opportunity for redemption. She had a breakout performance in the 60s on the Big Valley, but her fame had begun to wane by the late 70s. Even though it didn't appear that way at the time, Dynasty was meant to be her big return. The program bombed in its first season, placing 29th in the ratings. Joan Collins' 1982 casting as Blake's ex-wife Alexis Carrington shifted the focus. Dynasty took off once she arrived. With 20 million people per week by 1984, it had risen to the top of the American television ratings. It took a lot of physical stamina to play Crystal, and it wasn't just about looking the part. In 1983, a lily pond brawl between Crystal and Alexis became one of the most iconic scenes from the show's run. The shoot lasted 2 days, and Evans was adamant on performing all of the stunts herself. 30 million people tuned in to see the moment, which created a cultural sensation. Even while Crystal and Alexis's on-screen rivalry was enjoyable, their off-screen interactions were less so. Collins and Evans got along famously poorly. Collins was a master scene stealer who enjoyed micromanaging the execution of scenes via extensive rehearsal. Evans, on the other hand, favored a more organic style. When Collins inadvertently struck Evans in the jaw during a battle, it heightened tensions due to their different fighting styles. After the occurrence, she made the quip, "That's not acting. Linda really hated me." Evans took exception to the comment, and once declined to film a scene in which Alexis embarrasses Crystal at a charity dinner. During a table read in 1985, Collins slammed Evans's speech and Evans walked out, marking the height of the conflict. Their competition captivated spectators despite the hardship. Season finale, The Moravian Massacre from Dynasty, aired in May 1985 and was the show's most popular episode. In this suspenseful scene, terrorists disrupt a royal wedding, ensnaring Crystal and Alexis in the midst of the mayhem. There were 35 million viewers for the program. Evans, on the other hand, was having a tough time off-screen due to the persistent back pain she had developed as a result of the stunts. The increasingly ridiculous writing also made her feel confined. She decided she'd had enough by 1989 and walked away after filming only 6 episodes of Season 9. She reflected on her past experiences and remarked, "I felt like a puppet. Crystal was trapped and so was I." Evans still managed to get some recognition for his effort, despite all the obstacles. She shared the trophy with Barbara Bel Geddes of Dallas for Best Actress in a Drama Series in 1982. She was nominated for 4 further Golden Globes and an Emmy in 1983, but she was never named winner. She was beloved by fans and held the record for most People's Choice Awards, 5 in a row, until Jennifer Aniston's tenure on Friends. Evans graced the covers of 6 magazines in a single month when her celebrity was at its peak. With her $2 million agreement with Crystal Light in 1984, she also became one of the first prominent brand ambassadors on television. After its 1983 debut, her beauty and workout book went on to sell 500,000 copies. However, the 1985 guest appearance of Rock Hudson as Crystal's ex-boyfriend caused the most uproar outside of the show. A kissing sequence involving Hudson and Evans was originally scripted. Nobody understood he was fighting AIDS back then. Before filming began, Hudson gave her a protective gargle of antibacterial mouthwash. Evans encountered resistance from her staff colleagues once the news of his diagnosis spread. Some of them even refused to share a cosmetics trailer with her. "I became a pariah suddenly," she said afterwards. The kiss had already been viewed by 28 million people when ABC contemplated removing it from future broadcasts. At the same time, her animosity for Collins persisted throughout. Accusing Evans of having arranged from A to B in 1986, Collins made fun of her performance. As a result of her hurt feelings, Evans did not attend any Dynasty reunions for more than 10 years. Collins didn't come clean until they were on Hell's Kitchen together in 2006 and said, "We were oil and water, but the show needed both." Evans departed Dynasty in 1989, worn out from nearly a decade of high-stakes television. Despite her rise to fame in the 1980s, she felt exhausted from the experience. She came clean years later about how the program had both a liberating and stifling effect on her life. She has cemented her position in television history with her defining performance in Dynasty. Love, treachery, and rebirth were the defining moments of Linda Evans's life. It was all Hollywood magic during her first marriage to director and actor John Derek. They met on set of The Big Valley and were married in 1968 when she was 25 years old. Despite the 16-year age difference, she was captivated by his charisma and self-assurance, and she devoted nearly a decade of her acting career to helping him achieve his dream of becoming the perfect wife. With unwavering faith in the future they were creating together, she spared no effort to ensure the success of their marriage. Afterwards, 1973 Christmas Day arrived. First thing in the morning, Derek sat her down and confessed his love to Bo Derek, who was 17 years old at the time. On a film set in Greece, he met Bo when she was 16 years old. Since their romance began when she was a minor, he remained in Europe with her until she became 18 years old in order to evade statutory rape charges in California. Evans was devastated. She confessed afterwards that she felt useless and contemplated suicide. In 1974, the divorce was completed, but the anguish continued. Derek wed Bo 2 years down the road, and the couple remained married until Derek passed away in 1998. Despite its terrible impact, the betrayal altered Evans's life in ways she could never have imagined. In 1974, she contacted her agency and pleaded for employment, determined to rebuild. Many people had cautioned her that Hollywood had forgotten about her after she was away from the profession for too long. She was adamant about not accepting it and would take any part that would give her another chance to prove herself. Crystal Carrington, the part she secured on Dynasty in 1981, earned her $100,000 per episode and a Golden Globe. Ironically, she didn't take the post if she had remained married to Derek, something she only discovered years later. He had dictated her professional path and wouldn't let her do tasks independently. Of all the terrible things that had ever occurred to her, his treachery had been the one that finally liberated her. Bo Derek called the encounter a terrible thing that crushed her heart, and she revealed decades later that she still felt guilty about what transpired. However, Evans had accepted it a long time ago. Rather of resenting Bo, she chose to forgive him, and the two eventually became friends. "I love people even when I'm apart from them," Evans once declared. "I just love differently." She had hoped that her second marriage would be markedly different. Stan Herman, a real estate magnate from Los Angeles, was her husband in 1975. She sought security after the upheaval of her divorce and found it in Herman. Through his guidance, she was able to regain her financial footing and eventually become a self-made millionaire. Their marriage, however, failed despite the success of their business cooperation. Evans had regained her passion for acting, but Herman desired a conventional housewife. They divorced in 1979 due to their incompatible lifestyles. Herman ended up being more of a longtime friend to her than her first spouse. She remained his financial advisor for decades after he handed her their Beverly Hills house. After receiving the diagnosis of thyroid cancer in 1986, Evans was the very first person to be at his side. While she was caring for him during therapy, She even thought about getting married to him again. His impact was long-lasting, according to a close friend who was there. Having her back in his life is the best medicine he could get. Their romance didn't last long, but he taught her about money, which she used to negotiate huge contracts on Dynasty and become one of the highest-paid actresses in television history. Evans was disillusioned with marriage after their divorce, even though they loved and respected one another. She eventually confessed, "I was tired of being a housewife. Now that both Stan and I are successes, the thought of settling down is appealing." However, she never actually did. She chose to be independent after 2 marriages didn't work out. After departing Dynasty in the late 1980s, she took a bold decision. She finally went her own way, leaving Hollywood behind, purchasing a remote lake house in Washington state, and vanishing from public view. No one expected her to be perfect. She stopped caring about her appearance, planted vegetables, and chopped wood. Thinking back on her time with artist Yanni, she stated, "I no longer had to worry about how I looked," referring to the Botox and wigs in her relationship. Being in the background wasn't always a bed of roses either. She had excruciating agony for years after a slipped disc in 2006. She contemplated ending her life due to the excruciating pain. Her sisters were also dealing with terminal diseases. She had never been so down in the dumps before. "I truly grasped the meaning behind the words, 'Maybe I don't want to live,'" she eventually confessed. Amidst it all, she managed to stay alive. She learned a fresh perspective. There was a lesson in every traumatic event. The speaker expressed her realization that she was deserving of better treatment. Passion ebbed and flowed. She never remarried after her 9-year marriage to Yanni, a man 12 years her junior. She was free of remorse by 2023, when she was 81 years old. She said on Northwest Primetime, "Joy doesn't come from the spotlight. It comes from the life you choose." She declined reality TV offers, penned a novel on self-discovery, and now campaigns for reforms in senior care. Her journey from deceived wife to independent woman became an inspiration after her 74th DUI arrest, which was triggered by the medicine she had been taking for her spinal injury, a sobering reminder of the challenges that come with age. "Reclaiming one's life opens one's mind to anything," she once stated. "And if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't. I would not change my past," said the woman. "It made me who I am." For an entirely new experience, Linda Evans departed from the opulence of Beverly Hills, a serene refuge with a river, guest cottages, and a small group of close friends and family welcomed her to her 70-acre property in Rainier, Washington in 1989. She had purchased the property when she was still a Dynasty star, but after her Hollywood career ended, it became her permanent retreat. "I live in heaven here," she remarked, describing her house where she and her sister, nephew, and ex-stepdaughter Shaw Derrick all reside. She made a dramatic shift in her way of life, relocating to a light-filled 2-bedroom home where she could devote her time to gardening and hiking. She told Oprah, "You want to be where your heart feels safe," and went on to say that she felt more confident in her identity as she got older. Her diagnosis of idiopathic edema prompted her to explore alternative therapeutic modalities, including naturopathy and Eastern philosophy. Before wellness culture became popularity, she decided to stay in Washington, D.C., in part because of J.Z. Knight's Rama's School of Enlightenment, a contentious organization that she joined in her quest for spiritual knowledge. Even at that early stage, Evans was advocating for the link between attractiveness and health. She released her 125-page beauty and exercise book, Linda Evans, in 1983. It covered topics including mental wellness, skincare, and exercise. After its publication by Simon & Schuster, the book sold more than 500,000 copies. She worked on the project with her ex-stepdaughter Shawn Catherine Derrick, bringing concepts like intuitive food and meditation, rare in the fitness scene of the 1980s, and featured step-by-step exercises, skincare routines, and affirmations like, "Beauty begins within." With the help of CEO Mark Goloff, she expanded her health concept in 1992 with the opening of Linda Evans Fitness Centers, a network of women-only gyms. Her holistic wellness facilities included aerobic courses performed by her ex-partner Yanni. Even when the gyms went out of business, Evans kept her focus on health and beauty by hosting infomercials for products like the electric face toning mask, Rejuvenique. With her statement, "I wanted to help women feel strong, not just look strong," she demonstrated that fitness was about more than simply looks for her. Evans became the oldest winner of Hell's Kitchen in 2009, at the age of 66, which was a complete surprise to everyone. With 5.8 million viewers, she stunned the UK audience in the live finals by defeating comedian Adrienne Edmondson. The fact that she had never worked as a chef before and could only ever cook for herself or memorize recipes for scenes from the Dynasty made her triumph all the more astonishing. The show was not kind to her at first. On day one, head chef Marco Pierre White expelled her from the kitchen for overcooking scallops, stating, "You're not ready to hold a pan." The physical difficulties were as demanding. She set a new record at a fish market challenge by killing a live eel with just her bare hands. A subsequent admission from her revealed her true colors. "I volunteered to learn even if becoming a murderer." While Mario Batali was judging a pasta challenge, she had her return moment. In contrast to younger contestants like Bruce Grabelar, who quit, and Anthea Turner, who was eliminated due to poor knife skills, White later praised her unshakable elegance under fire. Her lobster and truffle ravioli outperformed dishes from trained chefs, proving she wasn't just a novelty contestant. Although Evans gave her £100,000 prize to charity, her true triumph was cultural. She became the most surprising winner on Hell's Kitchen and caused a 237% surge in tourist inquiries from fans in the UK to Seattle. After an 18-year absence, Evans made a triumphant acting comeback at the age of 79 in the SSSW premiering independent film Swan Song, 2021. She plays Rita Parker Sloan, a former opera singer dealing with the effects of aging and a decline in her career, in the film. She brought realism to her portrayal by drawing on her problems with chronic fatigue syndrome in the 1990s, which was a personal role for her. Evans had a remarkable performance while collaborating with seasoned art house actors like Udo Kier and Jennifer Coolidge. Among the many scenes that stuck out was the one in which her character, shaking with fear, applied cosmetics in a single 90-second take. For 3 weeks she practiced it, making sure every action conveyed the frailty of growing older. Reviewers compared her to Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard, and the result was a 92% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. She merely appeared on film for 11 minutes, but her influence was substantial. Her 1983 TV movie Bare Essence saw a 41% increase in streaming views in the month after Swan Song's debut. She gained a whole new fan base upon her comeback in the 2000s. Videos of her now iconic catfight with Joan Collins from Dynasty garnered 14.2 million views on TikTok, while her eel scene from Hell's Kitchen gained 9.7 million views. Out of nowhere, she captivated Gen Z. Plus, she became a star in the fashion industry when her metallic ball gown from the notorious Mulavian Massacre episode of Dynasty sold for $47,000 in 2022, 325% more than its initial estimate. No one can say that Evans's career trajectory has been linear. She has gone from soap opera star to spiritual seeker, fitness instructor to surprising culinary champion. To her, reinventing herself is an essential part of living a full life.